Hello and welcome to another week of News Bytes. This week's newsletter is on Luke chapter 12 verses 35 through 59. That servant who knew his master's will and didn't prepare nor do what he wanted will be beaten with many stripes. A sobering verse. From Eliyahu. Shalom, friends. Fear of the apocalypse has created a big thing. It's called prepping, and millions of people are doing it. Typically, it involves buying a lot of gear and supplies. No money? And don't know what to do? Primal Survivor, one of the many such websites for preppers, has it all worked out for you, with everything you will need to survive arranged in these categories: food supplies, water supplies, hygiene supplies, first aid supplies, lighting supplies, cooking and heating supplies, personal and home protection supplies, and evacuation supplies. If you buy all that stuff, buy all the books, train in use of weapons and a lot of other things, and devote the rest of your life to being prepared, you might just survive the end of the world. Or maybe not, if it turns out that there is some vital element you forgot to plan for. All of that is a lot of work. Perhaps you should just become a billionaire first and install a luxury bunker under each of your houses, complete with everything you'll need to survive in style for years after the start of any of the full range of the most nasty disasters anyone in marketing history could ever dream up. You will have no trouble getting this done if you've got the millions, since bunkers for billionaires are big business these days. Once you have taken those initial steps to secure your empire for the short term, you then must consider the implications of the long game, where the world is headed over the long term. Of course, the moneyed elite already have all of that worked out. Peter Thiel says the 1997 book, The Sovereign Individual: How to Survive and Thrive During the Collapse of the Welfare State, is the book that he is most influenced by. Other Silicon Valley elite are similarly on board with the book, which is why they are all buying up large chunks of land in New Zealand. Here's a quick breakdown of the future according to this outlook. Number 1. The democratic nation-state basically operates like a criminal cartel, forcing honest citizens to surrender large portions of their wealth to pay for stuff like roads and hospitals and schools. Number 2. The rise of the internet and the advent of cryptocurrencies will make it impossible for governments to intervene in private transactions and to tax incomes, thereby liberating individuals from the political protection racket of democracy. Number 3. The state will consequently become obsolete as a political entity. And number 4. Out of this wreckage will emerge a new global dispensation in which a cognitive elite will rise to power and influence as a class of sovereign individuals commanding vastly greater resources who will no longer be subject to the power of nation-states and will redesign governments to suit their ends. The sovereign individual is, in the most literal of senses, an apocalyptic text. The book presents an explicitly millenarian vision of the near future, the collapse of old orders, and the rising of a new world. Liberal democracies will die out, and Western civilization in its current form, they insist, will end with the millennium. The new sovereign individual, they write, will operate like the gods of myth in the same physical environment as the ordinary subject citizen, but in a separate realm politically. If that sounds like a planned strategy to you, by which the super wealthy are working to take over the world in a very overt way, then you understand the implications of the book. Only it's not Dr. Evil from the movies. This is all absurdly real. In 1997, there were no cryptocurrencies. Now they command billions of dollars. New Zealand is central to the strategy, and they are all trying to get a piece of New Zealand. Nationalism is being undermined in every way possible by the rise of socialism. The Silicon Valley elite are all super liberals. Is that because they care for the poor and disadvantaged, or because speeding up the demise of the nation-state through socialism speeds up their sovereign individual plan? Make no mistake, the termites are eating out the foundation under the house, not just because they're hungry, but because they want to cause the house to collapse. Give it a little more time and it will. Prepping is not going to help you in the face of this level of change. All the canned goods and bottled water in the world cannot preserve your God-given rights from the ravages of the New World Order that is being custom crafted by the elite at the expense of the ordinary person. The immense social and political upheavals you are daily witnessing testify dramatically to how rapidly the old world is fading and the planned feudalism of the wealthy is taking over. The world has been changing at lightning speed since we entered the new millennium, but the next decade or so will leave all that behind like a blur, bringing us into this technocratic, dystopian future. You cannot prep for changes this monumentally profound, not in the usual definition of prepping at least. In the end, prepping will come down to picking a side. Most people will see the elite winning and will throw their lot in with them despite the fact that they're evil, selfish megalomaniacs, and in doing so, they will expose just how evil and self-destructive the world of mankind actually is. They will prove this wicked world deserves and needs to be destroyed, and it will be, by the returning Lord, Yeshua Messiah. Of course, it's Messiah who represents another choice, the righteous choice. At the end, he will return, and the elite have no plan and no means by which they can stop him. Ultimately, he's the ruler of the world, not them, and he is coming to claim it for himself. When he comes, everyone will get what they deserve. Prepping, it turns out, is really about preparing your life and your inner man to get through this end of the age with your faith intact and your life lived in his service. In view of the opposing forces, being ready for his return will be increasingly rigorous and demanding through the remaining years, with everything of eternal value at stake. Messiah set out what this will involve in Luke 12, and this is all before us right now. And this really reminds me of last week's newsletter, because everything does boil down to a choice. Choices you make now will determine how you react to the future events. So are you going to grow your spirit man now, or are you going to procrastinate until the end when it will be much harder to make those decisions and much harder to face your enemy? Because it's not going to be easy to make the decisions that you'll be facing if you don't prepare your inner man right now. The battle is in your mind, and it's with the spiritual forces. So no matter how much you prep to survive with your body, you might just be one of those people who give in to the beast if you're not prepping your inner man right now and focusing on Messiah. I actually have a verse here I want to read. For our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the powers of this dark world, and against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms. Ephesians 6:12. Now, there's also an interesting little article at the end of this newsletter, and you can find the link to that below. Per usual, the video should be here, and don't forget to like and subscribe. I appreciate your feedback, so please leave comments below. Thank you.